Hey everyone! If you're like me, those perimenopause symptoms are driving you crazy. Well, I've got a little help for you. All you need to do is go to my midlifewithcourage.com website, and a little box is going to pop up that's going to ask you if you'd like to get my free ebook called Balancing Your Hormones. It's a short little guide with tips that you can use throughout the day, super easy, to help you balance out those hormones through the things that you do. So check it out, midlifewithcourage.com. Now let's get back to the show. You are listening to the Midlife with Courage podcast. This is where women in midlife come for inspiration, motivation, and sometimes a little education to help them flourish after 40. Don't forget to hit that follow or subscribe button to make sure you don't miss an episode. Now let's get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Midlife with Courage. I am Kim Benoit, your host. Thank you all for being here. I also want to thank my lovely guest for being with us today, too. Her name is Sarah Colbert. Did I say it correctly?
You did.
Awesome. Yeah, so Sarah is going to share her story with us. She's another midlife woman, and she's also a fellow podcast host as well, and does some other things. First of all, Sarah, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to join you today.
Why don't you first tell us a little bit about you, what you would like the listeners to know about you, who you are, and what you do?
Yeah, so I am a woman, a midlife mom. I have three kids. They are all in their teen phase, and
Ooh.
I've been married for 20 years. My husband is a high school football coach, so it has been a very busy, fun ride being a coach's wife. And then my background is actually in television news. So I did that for several years before my husband and I built a business and then stayed at home with my kiddos. And now kind of having that opportunity to figure out what my next is.
Yay, I know, isn't it? I love this time of life. People think, oh my God, we're getting older, but it's wonderful. There's so many things. So we can talk
So
about
many
that.
things. Yes, so awesome.
Yeah. And you have three daughters, is that correct?
I do, yeah.
Three
So
teenagers.
people always say, "Oh my goodness, weren't you going to try for your boy being
Oh,
a football player?" And I'm like, you know what? I played the clarinet. I was super involved in civic activities in high school, not super athletic on my end. So, you never know. You're rolling the dice. So my girls are the biggest football fans, and mostly their dad's biggest fan. So yeah,
sure. That's
yeah.
amazing. Wonderful. Well, before we get into your story, what we want to talk about today, I always ask my guests to share with us a time in your life that you felt courageous or you showed courage.
Yeah, absolutely. Going back to when I was in high school, actually, I lost my mom suddenly when I was 17. And I was the second oldest of five kids, and my siblings were significantly younger than I was. And that was such a milestone in my life, and just being able to have courage to, I remember after she passed away, and then moving forward and just living a life that would be reflective of her memory and being able to continue passing that torch on, being the woman of God that she was, and then really being a woman who I wanted to be in my life. And the cool thing is, when you experience unexpected setbacks, you really don't know how you're going to end up. And it was all about my faith and moving forward, and the Lord providing people in my path to help me to have that courage to move forward so I could just have the life that I have now, just with three beautiful girls and an
Mm.
amazing husband.
Wow. I'm sorry that she died. I know
Yeah.
it was a while ago, but it's still, I'm sure it's a loss that you feel
Yeah,
for a long time.
absolutely.
Yeah. So let's talk about your story. Where would you like to start? It sounds like you've done so many amazing things. I always like to just say, hey, where would you like to start?
Yeah, so my story kind of goes back to, I mentioned I was in television news for many years, and I really enjoyed that career. When I was in high school, underneath my senior picture, we always had to say what we wanted to be, where we saw ourselves. And I put an NBC nightly news anchor underneath. I was like, I'm just going to shoot for the stars.
Yeah.
And the cool thing was, my dad was like, Sarah, that's kind of a big thing here. I don't know if, let's just tone it down a bit. I went to college. I didn't go to a journalism school, but a door was opened. I interned with NBC's Meet the Press, and that was a phenomenal experience for
Wow.
me under Tim Russert. And doors were open. I worked in small market television, and I set out to do something, and it was so cool to actually be able to do something that you set out to do. And when I never wanted to get married, but God had other plans. And I met my husband while on assignment covering a news story at a local high school.
Oh.
And he was doing hall duty. He's a teacher and a football coach, like I mentioned. And we just connected and met and dated and got married. And so there went my plan of being a single career woman. And we always have to be open in life, right?
Hmm.
To what's next. And so from there, I pivoted in my career and we started having kids. And I just really wanted to stay at home with my kids. I just had that desire. And so my husband and I, we built a direct sales business because we weren't going to be able to afford one income on a teacher's salary.
Yeah.
And so we consistently built a business in network marketing and loved the product. And really, that created a life of freedom and flexibility to where I could still have something, but just be with my kids. And it was such a gift. It was such a
Mm.
gift.
Yeah. Direct sales and MLMs get kind of a bad rap a lot of times, but I actually have done two. And the last one was with essential oils. Of course, people know that I'm an aromatherapist and things, but I really think if you aren't someone who has a business background, the ones that I mean, the company I worked with, they gave me a lot of business training, and that really did help.
Absolutely. And not only business training, it was a lot of personal development and personal
Yes.
growth, which really helped when we did hit a moment of time where it was really hard. And I really relied on that. And I really credit that to being able to kind of dig myself out along with my faith to move forward with courage and confidence in that. And so when we built our business, it was great. And honestly, it was to a point where I was kind of feeling I was on autopilot. I had kind of
Mm.
lost vision for my life because I felt like, well, we've accomplished what we set out to do.
Hmm.
And our girls were getting more independent. We had made a big move up to where my family was from. And so it was new, even though I was familiar with the area. We really uprooted our family after more than a decade of living where we had raised our family.
Hmm.
And so that was new. And having this lack of renewed purpose and vision for my life was really hard. And from the outside, you wouldn't think that I was struggling
Hmm.
because everything was supposed to look good, right?
Yep.
And I didn't feel good. And so I remember vividly, I just was about to turn 40 and it was January and I was in a harsh Midwestern winter, where we're not
Gee, what
getting
are those like?
where we're not getting very, very much vitamin D, all of
Hmm.
that. And I just felt low. And I had recognized the feeling before because when I left television news, that was part of my identity. And I didn't realize it at the time until it was gone. And as my kids were growing more independent, I felt the shift of motherhood. And I had an ache of like, well, where do I fit in? We've reached this point in our business where I don't have this vision again in for my life. And I was lying on my bedroom floor, my face buried in it, my Bible open, and I was just sobbing. It was such a hard time of my life. And since I recognized what was happening from what I experienced several years prior, I was able to recognize the lies that were trying to infiltrate my mind. And fortunately, I reached out to my husband and I reached out to some trusted friends so they could join me in praying with me when I didn't have the words.
Hmm.
And fortunately, I was able to find community through that hard season and start to slowly resurrect a dream that I had buried away a couple years prior. And the timing couldn't be better because 4 months after that, we actually got a call that the company that we were part of was doing a major restructuring, how they were going to compensate their distributors. So we were going to lose more than 90% of our income overnight.
Wow.
And that was a big blow. But I knew from past experience that that wasn't going to be the end.
Mm. Hmm. I love that.
Yeah. So, with that, just relying on our faith and knowing that with my husband and I, if we were a unified front, if we were a unified team and carrying our girls through this uncertain time period, and relying on our faith, God would show up, and he did. I mean, I don't know if people listening, if they've experienced miracles or if they've just heard of them and are receiving of them, but miracles showed up. And it was just incredible to see the outpouring of community support and love to kind of bridge the gap from
Mm.
point A of being at a low point
Hmm.
to carrying us through to where, my husband was able to, well, should I just even tell you this miracle story that happened
Yes,
to
please.
us?
I was going to ask. So,
Okay. So, so my husband, when we got the call, he became the man who is saying, I got to provide for my family. I'm going to get out of, if you are know a teacher or married to a teacher, they don't get paid a lot.
they,
And they don't do it for the money. They do it for the rewards of investing in the lives of young people. But all of that to say, he said, I need to provide for my family. So we got on the phone with a friend telling him, looking for resources. And he said, hey, I'm going to get out of coaching high school football. And this man my husband was talking to, my husband actually coached his son. And so he knew my husband from that arena. And he said, nope, you're going to stay in high school football. That is your calling. And this man was very wealthy. And he said, how about this? What is it going to take? He actually offered to pay 6 months of our mortgage
wow.
and hire us to give us a monthly salary to promote a product that was in our former community to help bridge the gap. And let
Hmm.
me just tell you this, Kim, timing couldn't be more perfect. So first my
Wow.
husband said no, and I'm like, babe, did you consult me on that? Can
Yeah,
we just
team.
talk about that? Yeah. And he told the story to a friend, third party credibility, and he said, hey, Brandon, this man said that he would pay for us. I'm just not going to do it. He's like, hey, Mark, what if this is an opportunity for this man? He wants to bless you to help bridge the gap, to have stability for your family through this uncertain time.
Mm.
And so we received this gift from this man. And wouldn't you know, it was 6 months of providing these payments for us. But my husband was able to land a full-time job the month after the monthly payments stopped.
Oh my gosh.
You couldn't even, you know, predict it even better, And
Yeah.
so it was just awesome to see how, in those uncertain times when you are just connecting together, you are praying, you are believing for the best. And
Hmm.
yeah, life is going to be challenging, One of my favorite authors, Andy Andrews, says, either going into a crisis, in the middle of a crisis, or coming out of a crisis. And I know that doesn't sound very optimistic, but we all have challenges. That's
Right.
that's life. But it's what we do in the face of those challenges makes all the difference.
Yeah, for sure. So that's just amazing to me that it just kind of gave me goosebumps. It was a goosebump conversation. Yay.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about that 6 month period. Maybe let's start there. I'm sure things were uncertain. And how did you just keep going and keep the faith? Because I'm a faith-based person too, but there's sometimes when we get a little discouraged.
Totally. And so I went out and I said, hey, I got to also work. So I had four part-time jobs, very part-time, because I'm kind of the default parent in the
Sure.
operation here. And I remember going to the grocery store with my girls and literally having my calculator on a phone and typing in how much groceries were for the month just to make sure that
Mm.
we were on budget. And so stewarding, just because someone was paying for our mortgage and we had savings and all that, we still wanted to steward well
Sure.
and not to have a spirit of fear, but to be mindful of how we were moving forward for our girls and to model that for them
Mhm.
and to help them have that stability. And we relied on our community, just to lift us up in prayer and just having that support system. One of
Mhm.
the jobs I did have, you talk about maybe, wow, adding another curveball or insult to injury. One of the jobs that I was going to, I was driving down the highway, state highway, and I was driving down on my way to work and I was rear-ended by a semi. And
Oh,
fortunately, he wasn't carrying a load. So this was a few months
oh my
after we had
gosh.
lost our business. And so talking about feeling not only knocked down, but just even pushed continuously to the ground and rising up and having that faith to continue to move forward because it really wasn't about me. It wasn't about my husband. And it was about providing that stability for our girls and showing them what it takes to, in uncertain times, to really hold on to your faith and knowing that you're going to be okay. And it
Yeah.
really redefines what you need and what is important in your life.
That's a great point because you do have to prioritize what you need and what is important. So, what does that mean to you? How did you do that and show your girls? Ladies, you know I believe midlife is not the end of anything. It's the beginning of everything. That's why I created the Courage and Confidence Hour, a monthly space just for us to connect, share, and shine. Here's what you can expect during this 3-month program. Each month, we'll gather on Zoom for an uplifting, heart centered hour that helps you quiet self doubt, find your voice, and build the kind of confidence that ripples into every area of your life. You'll leave each session feeling lighter, braver, and more energized to take on your next chapter. And the best part? You don't have to do it alone. You'll be surrounded by women who truly get it, who lift you up and remind you that you're not behind, you're right on time. We're kicking things off this October with a special beta launch at an introductory price, and I'd love for you to be a part of this founding circle. If you're ready to feel more connected, courageous, and confident in your everyday life, this is your invitation. Just click the link in the show notes to sign up and join us.
Yeah, so a lot of it is we value family time together as a family. We had to say no to a lot of things, and we told our girls, we see other people doing certain things. And I do remember that summer we did reach out to a friend. We had stayed at their cabin one summer prior to that, and they were really, we paid a certain price for what we were going to stay for, but trying not to be so disruptive, but being very mindful. I remember the professional baseball team in our state. I remember listening on the radio, oh, $5 tickets. Okay, great. We're going to go $5 tickets, nosebleeds. Our girls don't know the difference, but just really still trying to have fun without having fear of the unknown permeate through your life, because kids can sense that. And so now, even looking at them and their life and how they navigate challenges, it's really cool to see how generationally we can leave a legacy with our kids, that they are watching us and how I tell my kids, I screw up every day. I'm human. I'm going to let you down. I'm not going to mean to or intend to,
Mm-hmm.
but just know we are trying our best. And then having them have that similar posture with how they're kids. They're going to also make goofy decisions, right? We all
Mm,
do.
of
We're
course.
human. But thinking from a perspective, what do I want the climate to be in my household, right?
Mm-hmm.
And especially when those uncertain times come around.
Yeah. When you're talking about the $5 tickets, and when I look back with our kids are in their 30s now, but the things that we remember aren't that, oh, we had the best seats at that Brewers game or we had the best, whatever. It was the time we were together and those experiences. So, yeah, you had this perfect opportunity. You could look at it as a challenge, but it's also an opportunity to kind of flip that around a little bit for them.
Absolutely. And I think, what I want to encourage people too, when you're faced with uncertainty and transitions, because life is full of transition.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you need to say, what do I want in this next season? Or what do I want out of where I want to go? Because a lot of people stay stuck or don't transition successfully or smoothly because they don't know what they want.
Right.
And they don't take it from their head to their heart down to paper. And writing it down for my husband and I of where we are and where we want to be is huge for anything that we've done in life. And
Mm-hmm.
then not only doing that, there's a couple steps beyond that. It is having the intentional connection. So say it's something my husband and I want to invest in our relationship as husband and wife so that when our kids are grown and gone, I know him still. It's not like, oh, now I need to get to know you, right? So we're fostering this intentional connection. And then
Uh,
you have to do it consistently.
right.
My background is in between all the things, when I was in direct sales, I was doing personal training and I do some of that part-time
Mhm.
currently.
Okay.
And I researched, hey, on average, it takes 66 days before a new behavior becomes automatic. So then you have to
Ah,
have that consistency because sometimes we get super excited about something for 6 days. I don't know about you, but that's happened to me more
yeah.
than once.
Yeah.
And then things fall to the wayside for maybe because you don't know what you want or you're trying to do too many things at once. So
Mm.
it's really for us, we really narrowed down what's the next best step for us right now, given our certain circumstance. And the first one was providing for a family. And
Mm.
then secondly, then we ended up making another big move once my husband got that job. And then so it's like, how can we transition our family the best we can to make sure it is a smooth transition. And so there was a bunch of different getting clear on different aspects of that. And we're still through that process, right? I mean,
Mm.
several years later, but life is full of transition.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And you're about to have, well, in a few years, a really big transition, like you said, with the kids not being in the house anymore. And I love that you're preparing for that with your husband. My husband just retired a few years ago, and that is a huge, huge thing for both of us. And
Absolutely.
I wish we kind of would have thought ahead a little bit. I mean, we're fine. We look at it with humor. The first few weeks, he's like, well, here I am. I'm home. I said, yes, you are. I know.
Yes. Yes.
But
And I think too, and that's a good point. One thing I think the one of the things I'm passionate about is, helping women. It's not like you need to blow up your whole life, but starting to think about that process of
hmm
what life will look like when the kids are grown and gone,
hmm
so that when you are going through there, it's not like you're looking to that season with dread, but you're
Right.
looking at it with excitement. And sometimes people are like, "Oh my gosh, I have to start planning and doing all these things." No,
Mm.
you don't have time. I don't have time for that in my life. It's still busy.
Right.
And even though my kids are growing more independent, and I'm feeling this motherhood shift a little bit
hmm
because they don't need me for everything, but I do have pockets of time now to where I want to say, what do I want to do? What is that renewed vision for my life?
hmm
What do I want the next 5 years to look like? And not to get overwhelmed, but then take steps back to where I can start laying some of those foundational pieces slowly to where
hmm
it's not full of overwhelm.
Yeah. That I love that. And you're talking a lot about working with your husband as your partner. How about we talk a lot here about, looking with inside yourself as a woman. How does that fit into this? Are you kind of working that in? I'm sure you are because I can tell. But how are
Absolutely.
you working within yourself to come out into this relationship and the future?
Yeah, great question. I think that is paramount. And I don't necessarily like the word self-rediscovery because that seems so overwhelming and daunting to
Mm-hmm.
me. I like to say, what's next? And all that to say, sometimes we're pushed into comfort zones, and I'm a recovering perfectionist. I feel like I want to know all the things before I move forward, and probably I've moved more slowly because of that. But in this season of transition, when we moved to where we live now, I was having this stirring in my heart. We had lost our business a couple years prior to that, and I just was in this like, okay, feeling a little restless, right? I didn't
Mhm.
want to wait, but I was really bound by time limits because
Mhm.
my husband was so busy and my kids, even though growing more independent, they still needed me.
Yeah.
And so I just began to pray about it and write down things that I'm passionate about. And I didn't really know, but I got into action. And sometimes we think that clarity comes by knowing all the answers, but clarity comes when we take action.
Yeah.
And so I said, no more having my feet bolted to the floor. I am taking one step, even though my foot felt like lead, and it was a call that I got from someone that my husband knew who knew I was in television news. They were launching a new mid-morning news show and they wanted a mom contributor. And I
Hmm.
had just figured, I started doing some things with, oh, I want this maybe I can encourage women in marriage, motherhood, all the things, but I didn't really know what I was doing.
Hmm.
So I'm like, well, I can't really do that. I haven't been on television news forever. I totally fail. But I did it anyway.
Yeah.
And it was not perfect, but it was several months of doing this. And
Hmm.
that really, Kim, was a catalyst to where I'm now, to podcasting and just encouraging women. And so for whoever's listening, if they're in that season of maybe wanting something next and they don't know what it is and they're waiting for this big bolt of lightning to crash down, it doesn't always do that. I wish it did because I want to know what page of the book it's on, what
Yeah.
chapter I need to go to.
Give me
And
step
that
by step instructions.
Yes, and it's not. It's following the breadcrumbs.
Yeah.
And when we walk in obedience to where we're feeling the nudge and call, and you don't always have the opportunity to make the right decision,
Hmm.
but you always have the opportunity to make a decision right, to write it after it. And I that's been so freeing for me to say, you know what, I just need to do it. And then if something along the way falters a bit, it's going to be okay.
It'll
At
be all right.
least I did it. And then your confidence grows when you start taking these steps.
Hmm.
And so it's still been full of highs and lows, peaks and valleys, but it's so exciting when you are investing in yourself. So I think that's what I've done is just taking steps forward and doing it scared
Yeah.
and really trying to reconnect with some of the passions that I enjoyed even before kids and really thinking about, having people say self-care. And to me, that's not like bubble baths and getting massages, although I love those things.
Hmm.
But I think it's really creating the space consistently for yourself
Hmm.
because I really truly believe and I want to model for my girls. And my mom modeled this for me being that she was wife and mom of 5 kids,
Yeah.
she's like, I need my space, I need my time so that I can be who I'm designed to be for my husband and my kids and my community.
Hmm.
And so I've really treasured that gift that she's left me for legacy.
Hmm.
And so then I can pass that on to our girls as well. Because our girls and people's children, regardless of how old they are or you are, I think they need to see us as women pursuing something.
Hmm. I agree. Definitely agree on that. I love that you learned that lesson from your mom so long ago. She must have been amazing.
I think so. I might be biased, but
Well,
no.
yeah. Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
So we mentioned that you have a podcast. Do you want to say the name of it? I love it.
Yes. Yes, it's Midlife Unscripted and I love the cover art. My daughter, I'm doing this on the cheap. My daughter took the photo and it's kind of a nod to being in television news, throwing the script. I mean,
Yeah, I
it's
love
it's
it.
mostly because my life has been unscripted,
Yeah.
and especially I like to know what's going on and God's like, "No, you're not going to know. You're going
Oh,
to follow me and
sorry.
trust me." So yeah. And then it's really helping moms of tweens and teens navigate transitions with confidence.
Wonderful. Wonderful. I wrote this down and you mentioned it earlier. What's next for you?
Yeah, so it is just really, I would love to connect with women and helping them get from point A to point B if they're feeling stuck
Mhm.
and they're in feeling the transition of their kids not needing them the same way,
Mhm.
knowing that it's okay and the grief is real and you could still be having that at any age, right?
Mhm.
Having different grief points and know that figuring out what's next. I love helping women figure out what's next because I feel like I've been trying to do that my whole life, right?
Yeah.
And things that I've learned along the way have really helped me get from point A to point B.
Mhm.
And just being there to talk to women in our community, connecting with others, really sharing my story is an opportunity to encourage other women to say, "Hey, there may be something out there for you that you've been thinking about, but maybe something's trying to hold you back, but you just need to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Have courage."
Have courage. Have courage.
Yes,
Yeah.
totally.
I think so many of my guests that, they talk about, first of all, taking care of yourself, fill your own cup first. It's a version of that with almost every single guest I talk to, which I love because we can never hear that enough. And then there's something within you that you want to do and you're not doing it. Just, I know I hate to use a slogan, but just do it, take that action. I love that.
Yes. And sometimes too, it means, I think as women, especially in midlife, when we've done a lot of the things
Hmm.
and we hear just do it, and sometimes that means do all the things.
Yeah,
And so we've filled our life with all of the things, but not everything is a good thing for
right.
us. And so it's having that discernment and wisdom to say, what do I need to put down now? It's not always, but maybe now so that I can walk into this next thing and have the margin to do it.
Hmm. Yeah, so important. And the community too. I know one of the things that got me into wanting to help the community of women was I was in an event where this community of midlife women were just so supportive of each other
Mm.
because we're all kind of going through a similar journey. It might not be exactly the same, of course, but we need each other to say, hey, yeah, that happened to me too, or, this is what I did. And I love that you're doing that for other women too.
Yeah, thank you. Same with
Yeah.
you. I do
Yeah.
think it's such a important conversation to have. I remember when I was a young mom and I felt like there's a lot of resources out there
Hmm.
and a lot of connecting points where you could gather with other women and
Hmm.
share some similar stories and feel encouraged. And now as your kids are growing up and maybe they've already left the house, I feel like you need to be more intentional and to seek those opportunities out. And it can be
Yes.
exhausting sometimes.
Oh,
You're like,
yeah.
do I have the mental capacity to hunt all of this information down? But it's
Right.
encouraging to see other women like you and myself and others really
Mhm.
want to bring this conversation to light.
Yeah, it's important. It's definitely important for all of us and for our communities and for our daughters as well.
Yes, totally.
Yeah. So, Sarah, where would you like people to reach out to you if they'd like to talk to you or learn more about what you're doing?
Absolutely. They can find Midlife Unscripted on all major platforms and they can head to my website, which is westmetromom.com. You can find more information about me if you want to connect with me. My socials or my podcast links are on there as well.
Wonderful. And we'll put the link in the show notes for people to find that. This has been so fun. So, before we say goodbye, Sarah, is there any one last little nugget of knowledge or message you want to share with the women listening?
I think the biggest thing, and I said it earlier, if you're in a transition and you don't know what to do, just take the next best step and don't worry about the outcome.
Love it. Take that advice to heart, ladies. Well, Sarah, thank you so much. And I hope that we don't live that far apart from each other. So hopefully we can even meet in person sometime.
I would love that.
That'd be amazing. All right. Well, you have a great day.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Midlife with Courage. If you liked what you heard, I would love it if you would leave a review. Or even better, send a link of this episode to a friend. Until next time, take care of your beautiful self.